Am I on, Marcy? Okay. Okay, hello. Welcome to our meeting tonight of our council. We're going to do a call to order, and we're going to have a roll call by our City Clerk, Marcy Killian.
The record will reflect that all members are present.
The next thing on our agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance and our invocation, and Celia Tagdiri? Okay, she's going to, a member of the Baha'i Faith, and she's going to do our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll remain standing after that for the invocation.
Place your right hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. O my God, verily these servants are turning to thee, supplicating thy kingdom of mercy. Verily they are attracted by thy holiness and set aglow with the fire of thy love, seeking confirmation from thy wondrous kingdom, and hoping for attainment in thy heavenly realm. Verily they long for the descent of thy bestowal, desiring illumination from the sun of reality. O Lord, make them radiant lamps, merciful signs, fruitful trees, and shining stars. May they come forth in thy service and be connected with thee by the bonds and ties of thy love, longing for the lights of thy favor. O Lord, make them signs of guidance, standards of thine immortal kingdom, waves of the sea of thy mercy, mirrors of the light of thy majesty. Verily thou art the generous, verily thou art the merciful, verily thou art the precious, the beloved.
Thank you. The Brown Act Notice of Simultaneous Meeting Compensation. In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to the Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. We'll have the approval of the agenda by our City Manager, Patrick Johnson.
Mayor, there are no changes to the agenda this evening. Thanks.
We had no closed session today, and so the next thing on our agenda is our presentation, and we have a proclamation declaring April to be Fair Housing Month in the City of Vista, and Donald Stump, Executive Director of North County Lifeline, will accept the proclamation, so I'll be coming down there. Okay, I have a proclamation here that I'm going to read. Let me give that to him. This is for you. Whereas federal and state fair housing laws prohibit discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, age, sex, sexual preference, family status, disability, or source of income, and whereas the City of Vista receives federal Community Development Block Grant funds, CDBG funds, and is required to engage in fair housing planning, the City of Vista affirmatively furthers fair housing by providing fair housing services and information to residents as part of the fair housing program adopted by the City Council. Whereas the federal government has designated the month of April as Fair Housing Month, during which interested parties from the public and private sectors will participate in a nationwide effort to provide education about fair housing laws and to promote fair housing practices. Now, therefore, the mayor and the members of our City Council do hereby proclaim the month of April 2014 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Vista. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
This is actually his second proclamation today. We had a volunteer recognition for all of the volunteers at Lifeline today, and they had over 500 volunteers, and I think it was, how many, 27,000 hours that they volunteered? Over 27,000 hours that they volunteered over at Lifeline today. So anyway, so congratulations on that, too.
Thank you very much.
The next thing on our agenda is our consent calendar. The recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the consent calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of the calendar. And so I don't have anything from the audience. Anything removed? Is there anything from the council?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to remove C7.
Okay. Anything else from our council? I'm hearing them. I would entertain a motion for the balance of our consent calendar. Anybody?
I make a motion to approve the remainder of this consent calendar.
And I'll second it.
Okay, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. So the next thing we will do is our consent calendar, which is was it C4?
C7.
C7. Sorry, I didn't write it down. Do you need a report?
I think it would be okay to have a report.
Okay. A brief report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. John Conley, Community Development Director. With me this evening is Sam Hassanen, the city's traffic engineer, and he's going to provide the report.
Good evening. So we have a current agreement with Redflex Traffic Systems to operate red light cameras at 5 of our intersections, and the agreement expires in May 2014, next month. And the agreement has the option to extend it by 2 additional 2-year terms. So what we've found over the years that the program has been effective in reducing both red light run-in and collisions at the 5 enforced intersections. This is a graph or a chart that shows the citation trend since the beginning of the program in 2004. And we've seen a big reduction from the high in 2006, where last year in 2013, we had a total of just over 4,000 citations. This is a collision trend chart that also shows a downward trend. We started out 2004 with 47 crashes at the 5 intersections related to the presence of the traffic signals. And then in 2012, we had 22. So the recommendation is to approve Amendment 2 to the agreement with Redflex Traffic Systems to extend the agreement for a 2-year term.
Okay. Councilmember Rigby?
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions on this one. And looking at the graphs that you have provided as far as the collision trend, the collision trend graph doesn't really describe the types of collisions that are here. So I don't know if these are straight through T-bones, which was one of the reasons we had the red light cameras installed, was to curb the T-bones, or if these are fender benders, if they're rear-ended ones, or what types of accidents these are, and what the circumstances are under which they occurred. There's no data here for that. And then also on the citation trend, there's really no data here to talk about what kind of citations they are. Are they people who ran the red light going straight through? Are they rolling through the right-hand turn? Again, there's not really enough information on this to give an adequate picture of what it is we're talking about. And I was wondering if you know those statistics, the number of citations that are right-hand turn violations versus going straight through a red light, et cetera. And also the types of collisions. But there was also no talk about money in here. And I know that looking through the budget, per year it costs the City of Vista $305,964 to run the red light camera, in addition to the $400 a month that we pay the AT&T fees. So I was wondering how much of that, the tickets that are issued versus the tickets that are actually paid on, because I know they're not always paid or on time, how much of the money goes to the city, how much goes to the county, the state, et cetera. So if I'd like to see the balancing on that, if you could answer.
Sure.
If you have all those, and I can repeat the questions if you need me to. And then the other question I had on this, I'm just going to keep asking, was the City of Inglewood, I understand, processes our parking tickets, correct? And then Red Flex processes the red light cameras only. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So on the collisions, the collisions we considered are anything that's related to the presence of the traffic signal. So I counted all the T-bone, or what's also known as broadside, as well as rear ends, and any vehicle slash pedestrian, like vehicle versus pedestrian accidents. So basically I discounted anything that would not be related to the signal. For example, solo, run off the road, for example, a car that just kind of, maybe went on the sidewalk or something, happens to be at the intersection. So those were not counted. So this chart shows anything that basically involved two vehicles that were T-bone, rear end, or vehicle versus pedestrian. I also didn't count any side swipes. Sometimes vehicles in two adjacent lanes sideswipe each other. Didn't count that either. And on the citations, the right turns, the numbers I have on that is about half the citations are right turns, and the remainder are either throughs or left turns. And you had a question about the revenue. The citation is about $485, and about $150 of that the city receives. And for the last fiscal year, which would have been fiscal year 12-13, based on actual figures for revenues versus expenditures, which includes the expenditures as the contract with Red Flex, as well as the cost of the community service officer, and then the actual revenues that which we receive a monthly check from the court. Basically, we were in the positive about $35,000. But that doesn't account for staff time, like my time and the city attorneys, which is not that much. But that's just the contract plus the community service officer, so we're a little bit above.
I'd like to point out that what Mr. Hassanen had mentioned on the $460,000+ that we took in 2012, that's the one-year snapshot. When you look at it over time, it's probably closer to $445,000, $450,000. So at any given time, we're making somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 in additional revenue.
Okay, thank you. I think you answered my questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Coles, your name's on there. Did you want to, is that from before?
I didn't realize that I had done that. I guess I did that earlier. Well, I will make a couple of comments. Thank you for this comprehensive report. I think having been caught in one of these right turns several years ago, I did learn a lesson, and I stop carefully every time and make sure I come to a complete stop. It was frustrating. I get comments from, neighbors and other people who have been caught in that, and they express frustration, but they never say they didn't do something wrong. And I was at a point to question the need for continuing the program until I looked at the statistics, because I remember very vividly some horrible accidents and horrible speeders going through yellow lights prior to the signal. It even happened for a while after, until people learned that they were going to get caught. And my experience in the major intersections in Vista prior to the cameras was numerous and excessive people trying to beat the lights, and I don't see that anymore. It's not a revenue generation issue. I get frustrated that the camera company gets a lot of money out of doing it, but I'm at this point willing to continue the program or cast my vote to extend the contract.
Deputy Mayor Aguilera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I too think that we should support this. The fact that we've cut our collisions down to more than half, I think, says a lot. I mean, that's a selling point to me, and it's always been advertised to me that this is really what it's all about: safety for the community, safety for our drivers. And I think ultimately we got to look at the numbers. We've cut them in half or more than half. We're not really making a whole lot of money on this thing. We're just breaking even. So even if we were losing a little bit of money, I think I could still support it as long as we were keeping the community safe. We're elected to keep the community safe. We spend almost 2/3 of our budget on safety, whether it's fire, sheriff, and this falls into that area as well. So I think it's well worth the money that we're spending. And, you know, the types of violations, that was a good question. I thought about that too. But if they're going down too, that's great. You know, I think the fact that we're getting less and less violations of this is a positive thing. I think that's what we want. So I can definitely support this, and thank you for your report.
Councilmember Rigby.
Sorry. Councilman Coles reminded me about the yellow light. I don't know if my colleagues are getting the number of emails that I'm getting and questions on Facebook and Twitter about news reports of other cities when they've installed their red light cameras have reduced their yellow light in an effort to catch people. Can you address the time frame of the yellow light when these were installed versus what the yellow light timing is right now? Do you know that information?
So, yeah, the program was implemented at 4 of the intersections, at least in 2004. And just from what I saw in the file, the yellow times were checked and I believe increased slightly at the time. But as of now, as of the last at least 6-7 years, we have been at least standard or above as far as yellow times go.
But at no time did we ever shorten
No.
the length of the yellow light phase.
If anything, it was lengthened even at the beginning. Not at any time did we shorten those.
Okay. And for the record, I've never gotten a yellow or a red light ticket. So just wanted to put that out there for the record. Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Coles, did you have another?
One thing I wanted to add, enforcement at the intersections, without the red light cameras, we would probably have to assign or perhaps to continue a level of enforcement at those intersections, assign police officers and patrolmen. And that's a very expensive way to handle that, either by adding or diverting their current service that they provide to us. So to me, that's another way to provide better community-wide law enforcement without having to concentrate people at the intersections.
To me, it's always been about safety. We've always been about safety and not the money thing. And it did stop me from running those red lights. I mean, those yellow lights I used to whiz through, and I don't anymore. But I never got a ticket yet. So anyway. Okay, so with that, if I don't hear more, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to take staff's recommendation to support.
In a second.
I'll second.
Okay, please cast your votes. Okay, the motion passes with 1 no vote. Next thing on our agenda is our discussion of our operating budget overview, and our city manager will be taking that, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of the budget overview is to review the larger components of the budget at more of a macro level in an effort to receive direction from you in preparation of the draft budget, which will be coming before you on May 13th as a discussion item. Before we get started, I just want to thank all the individual department employees that have participated in the budgeting process, and they do a great job in reducing some of our budget accounts and making sure that we can eliminate our structural deficit. I would specifically like to thank Laura Johnson, who's sitting at the table, and Jeanette Ferris for the many, many, many hours of work they put into the budget and the late nights of producing a budget for you that's very comprehensive. I'd also like to thank Dale Nielsen for the financial side and Allie Zimmerman for her work on the budget. As it concerns staff, though, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that after 36 years of working for the city, Jeanette Ferris is going to be retiring in July.
Oh, no.
And so Jeanette, after 36 short years with the city of Vista, Jeanette's been the assistant city manager. She's been the manager of business license, the budget and policy manager, as well as other duties, has done a tremendous job for the city, and so hopefully now she'll be able to relax with her husband Ron and her kids as well in retirement. And while she's not leaving yet, the bad news is we're going to miss her when she's gone. Yeah. She's done a great job. She's very analytical, very talented, and a great problem solver. So we're going to miss Jeanette and her talents, and while she's not gone, I wanted to publicly thank her and embarrass her at the same time. So the order of the presentation tonight will be to briefly review the revenues and expenditures, and then we will take a look at Proposition L as well and talk about that, review the programs that the general fund subsidizes. We'll also review some of the many accomplishments that the city has achieved over the last year, and then we'll review the top priorities that the council set in March, and then we'll take feedback from you as we go and find out if you have any new direction for us as we approach the draft budget on May 13th, as I mentioned. So in terms of revenue and expenditures in the economy, we've all experienced over the past year that the state and local economic problems have somewhat stabilized for Vista. And in looking at the local economy, there are a few bright spots. Those include lower unemployment rates, increased housing prices, which have been helpful for property taxes, property tax stabilization, as well as increases to sales tax. And so, believe it or not, the city staff starts the budgeting process off in September of every year. Laura starts July 1st for the next fiscal year. And they go through and they scrutinize the budget. We review it on a line item basis. And it has become a challenge in recent years to find areas to reduce because we've done such a good job over the past 5 years in particular, and without wholesale eliminating programs. So in terms of revenue, you'll see on the slide that the total general fund revenues for fiscal year 2014-15 are estimated at $66,199,538. And the majority of the revenues come from the following sources that you can see on the slide there that have taxes listed by them. So the first one is property tax. The city received $17,908,000 in property tax revenues. And this is the highest amount to increase due to the movement in housing prices. So this has gone up, we're projecting it going up for 2014-15 by over $1 million at a rate of 6%. So this is really good news for the city. Sales tax is the second one there, and sales tax is at $15,346,000, and this excludes Proposition L sales tax, which I'll discuss in a bit. But sales tax revenue has rebounded since the recession. This is in part due to consumer confidence as well as adding certain retail locations in the city over the last 3 years in particular. And so for the 2014-15 budget, sales tax is estimated at 3% higher than the 2013-14 budget. And the two major categories are autos and retail that provide the most sales tax. Transient Occupancy Tax, or TOT as we like to call it, is at $980,000. And now that the 2 new hotels in South Vista have been in place for a few years, this revenue has stabilized. Franchise fees are coming in at $3 million, and this revenue has remained relatively stable. This includes franchise fees from EDCO, from SDG&E, as well as our cable providers. And you'll notice here on the slide, if you go towards the bottom part where it says one-time monies, you'll notice in the far right-hand column there's a 0 there. And I'm pleased to point out that outside of the beginning fund balance, we are not planning on using one-time monies. Therefore, we will not have a structural deficit in 2014-15, which is great news for City of Vista. The next slide deals with Proposition L revenues, and Proposition L revenues are estimated at $6,926,000. And to put it in perspective, the Prop L revenues typically reflect about 46 or 47% of the normal 1% revenues. And it's less due to the fact that it's a transition and use tax. And so what that means, it's only applied to purchases or consumers who buy things that are within the city of Vista, not to items that are delivered outside the city, such as flowers, furniture, and in particular, the biggest one is automobiles. So people that buy a car that don't live in Vista don't pay the half-cent sales tax. In forecasting the revenues, We estimate that for the life of the half-cent sales tax, which goes through 2036-37, projecting a conservative 2% increase, that the Prop L revenues will meet our expectations and be able to pay for our indebtedness that went along with the projects that they were, the Prop L was put in for. I do want to point out that we set aside $1.2 million for fire services. And you'll notice the blue line there in 2019-20, that'll be the last year at this point in time that we're estimating that the $1.2 million will come out of the Prop L funds to pay for fire services. This amount may change as we go forward in the future. As an example, in the next couple of years, if the increases are higher than 2%, let's say they're at 3% as an example, that line may move to 2020 or 2021. But at this point in time, we're projecting that we need to remove the $1.2 million fire revenue that we're using in the general fund from Prop L at that point in time. Are there any questions about the revenues? Okay. Yep, one question.
Councilmember Aguilera.
So I see that you're using a 2% increase for revenues. Now for expenses, that's a set amount, right? Or is that also being?
Expenses are a set amount. It's what we're estimating that our expenses are going to be. We're not doing any projected there.
Okay. Thank you. That's it.
So as it relates to expenditures, the major department expenditures that we have are general government. We have just over $7 million going towards general government. Public safety, as was mentioned earlier by Councilman Aguilera, is at $37.6 million, and it's approximately 66%, or just two-thirds of the general fund money that we take in. Community development is just under $6 million. Public works is at $2.9 million, and community services is at $5.2 million, for a total general fund expenditure of $58.79 million. You'll see that at the bottom of the slide, the total expenditures for 2014-15 are $66.06 million, and this includes the operational transfers out that we do for subsidies. It also includes the Prop L revenue. We have a number of non-discretionary items that we like to call uncontrolled costs for the most part, and these have either increased or somewhat eroded the ongoing reductions that we've made at the staff level, and I just wanted to touch on a few so you're aware of them. So first off is public safety services, and this is really our contract for law enforcement services. We're in year 2 of a 5-year agreement with the Sheriff's Department, and for 2014-15, we're estimating that the Sheriff's Department costs will be $19.3 million. And this is a huge amount, but still contracting with the Sheriff's Department is the most cost-effective way to provide services to Vista residents due to the fact that the Sheriff has a very robust capability when it comes to providing law enforcement services, and we're very satisfied with them. But it is our largest cost as well as our largest contract cost. Next one is health care, and we continually monitor our health care costs, try to do what we can to decrease the costs to city employees as well as to the city. You might recall in 2013-14 we made a change from Anthem to Aetna because the Anthem costs were, their rate quote to us was exorbitant, and we made a change at that time. So for this next year, because we don't get the premium costs until later in the year, we're estimating that the increase for health care costs will be approximately 12%. That's somewhat at the high spectrum for the two plans that we have, but in the past it's been anywhere from 7 to 12%, and so we're trying to be conservative in that estimate and taking the full amount. The next one is the Public Employees Retirement System, which is PERS, and in February the PERS board adopted new actuarial assumptions, and they had a study based on demographic data from 1997, I believe, to 2011, and the study found several reasons to have future rate increases. And the two major factors are that retirees are living longer, and the other one is PERS plans to improve long-term pension and health benefit sustainability so that the plan can survive into the future. And so the new assumptions are intended to more accurately reflect and fund the retirement system. So I wanted to provide you with some of the rates that we're currently paying as well as the rates that are projected to be paid over this new 5-year plan that they have. So the updated rates paid by the cities will be phased in for the first 5 years, and that'll start in 2016-17. And so for this current year, for miscellaneous employees, the rate for the employees is 21.5%. And so over the life of that 5-year increase, they'll go up somewhere between 4 and 6.7%. And for safety employees, the 2014-15 rate is 35.35%. And over the life of the 5 years, that rate will go up between 6.3 and 7.2 over the 5-year period. So what that means is in 2020, the current employees, or often referred to as classic members, for miscellaneous side will be paying, the city will be paying 27%, and for public safety, the city will be paying 42%. So we need to keep a focus on PERS, as well as look at ways to reduce our costs to the city in the future, and so that'll be a major issue going into the future 6 years, let's say. I do want to point out, as it relates to PERS, that in January of 2013, the state made a change to the tier and created a new tier for what they call classic members. And so there are reduced rates, and these will have a long-term effect on us. It'll take time as the workforce changes out and we have new members coming on board, but it will help in the cost of the city. And the last one on the screen is the minimum wage increase. And so recently, the minimum wage level has increased, and it'll take place on July 1st, 2014. It'll go from $8 to $9 an hour. And so the city has a lot of temporary employees that is paid minimum wage, part-time, typically in the recreation area. And so this is going to have a cost to the city of approximately $146,000 a year. And then there's another wage increase of $1 per hour that's scheduled to go into effect on January 1st, 2016. And so that'll have a similar impact on the budget in 2015-16. Any questions on expenditures or uncontrolled costs? Okay, we'll move on. Now I just wanted to touch on the subsidized programs that take place in the city. And these subsidies look a lot better than they did in years past, as you can see from the screen. 2 years ago, the City Council established maximum subsidies limits for each of these areas. And so I'll review each of the areas and talk about what the subsidy limits that were set by the City Council 2 years ago. The first one is the Senior Nutrition Program, and it has an estimated subsidy for next fiscal year of $259,113. So the Senior Nutrition Program is funded with grant funding, meal service fees from 2 other agencies, and it was 4 agencies a year ago, and that's gone down to 2, so it's hurt our revenue, and as well as participant donations. So each day, the program serves an average of what we call 80 congregate meals. So 80 people go physically into the senior center and have lunch. And we deliver 57 home meals, and we provide 30 one-way trips for participants to and from the senior center. 2 years ago, the City Council determined that the maximum subsidy would be $275,000 for this program. So with the $259,000 that we're estimating, it's well within the projections. I do want to point out that as a result of us losing 2 of the contracts, our revenues were reduced, and the way we stayed within the subsidy was we eliminated one of the positions at the senior center to be able to stay within that subsidy level. And I will say that any further reduction in revenue, we'll have to look at the division and make other structural changes. The next item there is the Lighting and Landscaping District. And so the Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District has a subsidy estimated at $184,649. This provides arterial and residential street lights, traffic signals, and tree trimming throughout the city. It's a citywide district. And so property owners pay assessments on their property tax bill, and that's how we receive funding. Last year, there was an actual decrease, as you'll see. A number of factors led to the decrease in 12-13. However, one of the big components was the fact that we retrofitted over 800 LED street lights, and we retrofitted 320 yellow traffic signals with LED lights, which saved a considerable amount on the energy cost. And so the final general fund subsidy is well within the council guideline of $275,000. Next is the Wave Water Park with an estimated subsidy of $173,318, which is the lowest it's been in quite some time. And as you all know from touring the Wave and being in Vista, the Wave provides pool, water park slides, and surf features during the summer months. They also provide aquatic programs and swim laps, camps, as well as a junior lifeguard program. Last year, the Wave had an attendance, last summer season, I should say, the Wave had an attendance of over 100,000 patrons. So it's quite a tourist attraction, as well as when visitors come to the Wave, they're likely stop for lunch or buy gas in Vista, so that's a good thing. I'd like to point out that the pool is also used year-round through a reciprocal agreement with the Vista Unified School District. The pool is used for swim as well as water polo for both of the high schools. And so VOSD provides us use to their gym, and we also provide them use to our pool facility in return. One of the other things with the Wave is that right now we have $670,000 still in bond indebtedness on the Wave. And so what we're planning on doing in June is defeasing or paying off that $670,000 using park development fees. And each year the Wave contributes to that bond fund approximately $135,000. So by paying that off, it'll save the general fund over the next 5 years $135,000 a year. So that'll be our recommendation to do that, to defease that. And with that, the council's subsidy, and it can fluctuate based on the weather, and as you can see in 2010-11, we had a large subsidy, and that was a really poor season there because of the clouds and the weather, and the sun wasn't out much during the Wave season. But the general fund subsidy for the Wave is set at $450,000. I would recommend lowering that to $315,000 to take into consideration the reduction of the $135,000 a year that they won't have to pay. The last subsidized program on the chart is Cultural Arts, which is basically the Moonlight and the Avo. And like the Wave, they provide for a well-rounded community and offer a tourist attraction. Last year, the Moonlight had over 50,000 patrons for the first time come into the city. And so the city's very fortunate because we have the Moonlight Cultural Foundation, as all of you know, and they are going to contribute for 14-15 $320,000 to help offset the costs to the city. And so we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the Moonlight Cultural Foundation for what they provide and allowing us to continue to provide arts. Currently, the budget subsidy is $200,000, the maximum subsidy, I should say, from the City Council. So at this point, with $239,000 estimated, it's higher than the threshold. So what we're going to do is we're going to monitor this throughout the year. And I do want to point out that the current season ticket sales are trending much higher than last year. So we're hopeful that in the coming months, that subsidy level will be decreased under $200,000. And as you know, we have a good season ahead, so hopefully we'll sell individual tickets as well, which will help lower that subsidy. Are there any questions on the subsidized programs? Question?
Did you have one, John? Councilmember Aguilera. Deputy Mayor Aguilera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a question about the $135,000 that you're recommending we take off the Wave subsidy, and it makes sense. But I know you and I had discussed, I just want to know where the money's coming from to pay off that debt, because I know you and I had discussed a couple of different scenarios, and I'm not sure if that's what we had discussed or if that was the original recommendation.
What it is when new development comes into town, they pay different types of development fees. One of the fees is park development fees. And so we've amassed money in the park development fund, and so that would be the funding source that we're recommending to pay off the Wave Water Park debt. The reason why we can use the park development fees helped establish the Wave Water Park in the beginning in 1994. And so it's an allowable use. The good thing about that is obviously it saves the general fund money year over year for the next 5 years, at least until those bonds would have been defeased just by paying them off on a yearly basis.
And what's the interest rate on the bonds, do you know?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm 6%. I'm getting a signal from the back of the room.
Okay.
Dale Nielsen.
Okay. Well, that definitely makes sense to pay that off then.
Especially at that interest rate.
Absolutely. That's high. Who entered into that? No, I'm kidding. And then so my question is on the Moonlight. You know, we set the amount that we would subsidize at 200,000. Now we're looking at 239, and I quote, you said that we owe them a debt of gratitude, and I think we're paying it in the form of cash at this point. But
Well, no, maybe I wasn't clear. We owe the Moonlight Cultural Foundation a debt of gratitude.
okay, I apologize.
Yeah, they provide us,
I
anywhere
agree.
from $300,000 to $450,000
I
a year.
agree with that completely. We couldn't do the Moonlight without them.
That's correct.
Absolutely. But I guess my question is, when you say we're going to kind of monitor this and watch this as we go, what does that mean? I mean, we're going to budget 239 for it against what we had originally talked about, and then hope that we get below?
That's correct. And so over the next 2 months in particular, as the shows are being planned, as we're looking at what the budget for each show is, we will monitor our spending, as well as we'll be very conscious of where the ticket sales are. If over the next 30 to 45 days the ticket sales are such that that's decreased down to 200,000, then we're well within, or we're within the subsidy level. If we're not at the 200,000 mark, then we'll have to take a look at the shows we're doing, and we may make minor tweaks to them in terms of things that we might contract out for. Whether it's, having, in the past, there's large ticket items that may not have that much of an effect on how the audience perceives the musical, whether it's a live dog or a fake dog, or whether it's having a car rotate a certain way that we might pay $4,000 to $7,000 to have done, that may not have an overwhelming effect on the audience. We'll take a look at those type of things that we can do to reduce the budget during the summer season. The WAVE staff, I should say, is very confident that they will bring this under the $200,000 mark based on where season ticket sales are at this point in time.
But I guess my question really is, if we approve this tonight, are we approving that 239, or are we approving the 200,000?
So you're not approving this tonight. We're just getting direction from you.
Okay.
We're saying this is what the estimated subsidy is. Hopefully, as we go forward.
No, I understand, but so would that be part of the direction we would give?
Absolutely. If you want to give us direction that number needs to be under 200,000 at this point, then we will make that happen going forward to the budget.
Got it.
We're hopeful that within the next month, as we come before you on May 13th, that season ticket sales will continue at the same clip they're at, and we may be able to bring this in under 200,000 during the draft budget or the final budget to you. If not, we can make changes.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Coles.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. Wasn't looking.
Yeah, I want to second the over the last 3 years, the Moonlight Cultural Foundation has really done a lot to enhance our ability to go forward with our Moonlight productions and the AVA productions. And I know that in the last year or so, some of the donations have been down because of the aftermath of a poor economy, and hopefully some of these things will pick up in years to come. There is a gala coming up that we all need to support that will help with the foundation's effort to support this. And I think after Deputy Mayor Aguilar's questions about the 239 figure as opposed to the $200,000 cap that we placed on it, I don't want to just unilaterally drop that without coming back to the council to see if we have any desire to maybe go ahead and exceed that $200,000 cap. Because when you look at years past, we were subsidizing over $600,000 a year. And I do think that last year's season, the upcoming season, this still is a diamond in the rough waiting to be viewed, seen, and supported by the whole region. So I don't want to shortchange the effort we have underway right now. So.
What I might suggest is just for this item in particular, we'll make it a focus point to bring it to your attention on May 13th at where we're at and where we think the subsidy will be at, and then we can have that discussion on that date during the draft budget discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no more.
Okay. I'll move on.
Onward.
Onward. We'll talk about accomplishments. And so there's certainly challenges, but we've had a lot of accomplishments over the last year, and I won't go through everything that's in your exhibit, but I will touch on the ones that are on the screen. And so you can see the city celebrated its 50th anniversary last year. We had a citywide party at Bringle Terrace Park. We had 3 movies in the park, which I will point out that will be in the budget again this year for the summer season, which will rotate them out and do movies in the park. That was a big hit to the residents of Vista. We had a photo contest for the 50th anniversary celebration. We had giveaways and a number of celebrations in that. So that was a successful year that we had. The fire department responded to 11,396 calls for service, which is about average for the fire department. It's anywhere from 11,300 to about 11,800 calls. Sheriff's Department responded to 62,000 plus calls, and I would like to point out that most of those calls, or a majority of those calls, were deputy initiated. So it wasn't 62,000 calls that were dialed into 911 or the Sheriff's Department, but it's deputies being proactive within the city. Graffiti removal of 132,000 square feet, asphalt repairs at 127,200 square feet, and pothole repairs, there were 4,878. And I would like to point out that this was significantly down by probably 2,000 to 2,300 potholes from the year before. And we attribute that to the fact that our roads are in better condition. And I think everybody acknowledges that. Over the last few years, we've done a better job at maintaining some of the major arterial roadways, and so less need for potholes to be repaired. We've secured $1 million, $1.14 million in grant funding for 2 traffic projects that'll be coming forward that have been planned out already. We've completed the 2013 to 21 housing element, which is a very big accomplishment, and thanks go to community development on that. The Wave Water Park celebrated 20 years. We've completed the Climate Action Plan. Again, that was community development. We had the 3rd Vista Cares Business Walk with 200 companies surveyed. Very successful walk. Senior Center delivered 14,816 meals to homebound seniors. And the new disc golf course at Bringle Terrace, it opened, and over 17,000 rounds of disc golf are estimated to be played there. So very good thing. And last on this list is The Wizard of Oz, highest grossing and attended production in Moonlight history. And they are hoping that Mary Poppins breaks both of those records for gross and attendance. So a lot of accomplishments, and in your packet there's many more, but I just wanted to point out a number of them. Now I want to discuss the City Council priorities, or just review them. And so last month, City Council had the goal-setting workshop and identified the top priorities, with fiscal sustainability being the top priority. And this included eliminating the structural deficit, which we'll have done for 14-15, and continuing to build our emergency reserves, and planning for future issues like PERS rate increases as well as public safety increases. Second top priority was public safety. And this includes maintaining the existing staffing levels as well as creating long-term efficiencies for staffing and reducing crime. Third item is decreasing the blight and improving the image of the city. And so this includes continuing the work that has been done on Paseo Santa Fe, both the current Phase 1 as well as the future Phase 2 that we're working on right now, along with working with property owners to improve vacant properties, the blight, and abandoned buildings that are on properties. And so staff is working on that as we speak. Another item on that, decreasing the blight, was improving the curb appeal at shopping centers, shopping areas throughout the city. The fourth item there is attract revenue-generating businesses, and this includes pursuing businesses that not only increase jobs but also enhance revenues for the city and make Vista more attractive with the types of businesses that we can bring in. The fifth item is continue making road and street improvements, and we've done a good job, as I said, in the last 4 or 5 years in improving our roadways, and also as part of this is to improve the entryways to the city. And the last one there is create more youth sports and recreational opportunities, and so this includes moving forward with the skate park, as was discussed, and providing more opportunities for recreational programs for both youth and adults. So the priorities will be addressed as we go forward with the upcoming budgets, And so I want to assure you of that and find out if there's any questions. All right. Finally, wanted to briefly discuss the structural deficit or lack of structural deficit for next year and moving forward. So as you can see on the slide, over 6 years ago, we had more than a $12 million structural deficit. And we've done a good job at managing the deficit without entirely decimating programs for the most part. And so we used a managed approach to systematically remove the deficit over time. And so the deficit's gone. We don't have a huge fund balance after the deficit, as you saw on the slides, but it is gone. But there is still a reason to be cautious. And so as you'll see on the next slide, hint the cautionary note on this slide. While we're doing better financially, we're still recovering from the third recession in the last 25 years. And as the slide shows, typically a downturn or a recession occurs every 7 to 8 years. And in the early 1990s, the inflation rose, oil prices peaked, which created a lack of consumer confidence. As you remember, in the early 2000s, we had the collapse of the dot-com bubble, as well as the September 11th attacks. And then starting in the late 2000s, we had the subprime mortgage crisis, which led to the housing bubble, the failure of the financial institutions, the bank bailouts, as well as the federal stimulus package. And in addition, we've all read recent articles from very notable financial experts that are forecasting a future market crash, as well as the fact that the nation's carrying more debt than it has in history, which makes it more vulnerable. So I would recommend that we do as the bottom of the slide says, which is in the red font, and that is not to plan for the next and inevitable recession, would be a mistake. Rather, set additional revenue aside and be ready for when the next downturn occurs, and be prudent in our financial doings. So we can do this by continuing to put money in the reserves, and I would like to applaud the City Council for taking the reserves specifically over the last 4 years from about 10% all the way up to 15%. And you have a City Council policy, which is, I think, 200-19, which has a goal of getting the reserves to the 20% level. And so I would like to continue to look at doing that over the next 3 to 5 years, incrementally building those reserves from 15 to 20%. As we have year-end fund balance that's available. So with that, I'd like to ask if there's any questions about the budget overview prior to the May 13th draft budget, and get your feedback if there is any.
Well, I'll just say thank you to Jeanette Ferris, and I hate to lose you because it looks like I look at the deficit that came down. It was amazing when you see that chart, isn't it, to see it all the way as it fell. So. Anyway, so congratulations on that, and all the hard work that all of you put in on doing this. So, Deputy Mayor Aguilera.
Well, I think I asked enough questions at this point, but I would like to support your idea of setting aside money or revenues to reserves and continue to build up that reserve. I think it'd be foolish for us to think that this is the last time we're going to be in a recession. So I think we need to set that as the reserves aside and also keep spending in check as well, which is really part of that process. But I think that's where cities in the past and government in the past has really gotten out of hand. And when things are good, we spend up to the max, and then we find ourselves when things go bad that we're in that deficit that we have been in. So I'm very much in support of setting aside reserves, and 20% to me is a starting point, but it's a good goal, and I'm here to support you on that. And Jeanette, I want to thank you for your years of service, even though you're still here for a few more months. We really appreciate everything you've done, and good luck and have fun.
I agree with you on the setting aside the money, because we've cut. Plus, we're running so lean right now that if we do have another recession, we're going to need that to help us through it. So, Councilmember Coles.
Thank you. And also thank you and a lot of plaudits go to you and your staff, and check in with us once in a while to make sure that we're still on track. And I know you've trained people well, and they've learned a lot from you. And we have a city manager who knows a lot about that to keep us in check, too. Again, we set a goal of protecting our reserve and building it, and I agree with that, but I want to also make sure that we're doing that for a reason, to protect against the rainy days or some downturns ahead, so that we don't try to protect a high level of reserve in a downtime. And this is our city's money. It's for our citizens. It's for our programs, and we slashed a lot of programs 4 years ago, and I would like to make sure that these reserves protect us against major cuts in essential services and even some of the nice things that we're able to do for our community. So a 20-plus reserve is fine, but just keep in mind that it may have to fluctuate depending on the needs that come up in a downturn. So I think you've done a great job of providing a budget that continues to make Vista a great community, provides resources to support our business economy as well as our communities. Thank you.
You don't need this is discussion, right? You don't need a motion or anything?
Nope, no motion needed. Just want to thank you for your time, and we'll move forward and bring the draft budget before you on May 13th.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Jeanette. Yay, good job. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is, just a minute, 2014 through 2018 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan and 2014-15 Annual Action Plan.
Good evening. My name is John Meyer. I'm the Redevelopment and Housing Director. And with me this evening is Kathy Valdez, our Program Manager.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The focus of today's item is to conduct a public hearing regarding the City's proposed 2014 to 2018 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan, proposed annual plan for 2014-15, and to open a 30-day public comment period to allow for further community input. The proposed 2014-2018 Consolidated Plan includes activities that will be accomplished through CDBG, home, and non-federal housing and community development resources. All activities will benefit low and moderate income persons as required by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Activities have been identified under each of the 3 federal strategies of providing decent housing, providing a suitable living environment, and expanding economic opportunities. Under providing decent housing, the city's goals are to develop 437 new affordable rental units, enable 20 low and moderate income households to become first-time homebuyers, and provide emergency housing to 200 homeless individuals. Under provide a suitable living environment, the city's goals are to provide public services to 6,850 low and moderate income individuals through support services for seniors, health services including mental health, crime and delinquency prevention programs, and emergency assistance. To implement 10 neighborhood beautification activities, complete 2 public facility or infrastructure improvements, and to improve or develop 2 recreation facilities. The city plans to expand economic opportunity by attracting or retaining 35 businesses. As required by HUD, the city will also undertake activities to affirmatively further fair housing. Staff plans to release a request for proposals in the coming months to identify a fair housing provider. The selected subcontractor will provide general information on fair housing, one-on-one assistance to 250 individuals facing discrimination, and testing for a variety of discrimination categories, with a minimum of 25 paired testings being completed. The city's 2014-15 CDBG allocation is $854,222. We're also recommending doing a carry forward of $90,000 that had been allocated for rehabilitation programs that was not able to be used in that manner in the current fiscal year, bringing the total amount to $944,222. Staff proposes to use CDBG funds for the proposed activities here: debt service, administration, capital projects, and public services. The annual debt service payment for fiscal year 14-15 is $406,163. In 1999, the city utilized a HUD 108 loan to assist in financing the highly successful Transient Center and Vista Village projects. The loan is to be repaid from future CDBG allocations and will be fully repaid in 2017. Under program guidelines, a maximum of 20% of our allocation may be used for administration. Any savings in administration can be used to supplement capital or housing projects, but cannot be used to increase the public service category. Staff is recommending utilizing the full 20% available to cover time to administer the CDBG and housing programs, as well as for fair housing services. Staff recommends allocating capital funds for Americans with Disabilities, or ADA, improvements at the Gloria McEllen Senior Center, as ramp, sidewalk, and path of travel construction, lobby improvements, and restroom upgrades. As approved by City Council in setting funding priorities and noted in the RFP package, the city's Out and About program and Operation Hope were identified to receive funding through a non-competitive process under the public service programs. A total of 13 funding requests for public service projects were received under the city's competitive RFP process. However, one agency withdrew and another was determined to be ineligible. The remaining 11 applications met the CDBG eligibility criteria based upon the request for proposal guidelines, as well as applicable federal and local requirements. And these were reviewed by the CDBG Citizens Advisory Committee. All applicants scored very well, leaving the committee with the difficult task of determining which programs to recommend for funding with a limited amount of funds available. At this time, I'd like to take a moment to ask our CDBG Citizens Advisory Committee members to stand up and be recognized for their time. I believe almost all of our committee members are here.
Where are they? Maybe I could thank them by name. We have Lenore Averill, Harvey Bush, Gary Caribou, John Healy, June Escuera, John Kropp, and Kenneth Metcalf, and they're all back here in the back. So thank you all for all the work. Did I forget somebody? Yeah, all volunteers, yes, and it's a tough job that they have. So thank you guys for doing all of that. So go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you. Funding in the amount of $20,000 has been allocated for Operation Hope, the city's emergency winter shelter. This represents the city's fair share contribution to the Alliance for Regional Solutions. A total of $12,000 has been allocated for the city's Out and About Senior Transportation Program. The CDBG Citizens Advisory Committee recommends funding the following programs. For crime and delinquency prevention programs, the Boys and Girls Club's Smart Moves program, and Palomar Family Counseling's Vista Family, Youth, and Child Response program. For support services for seniors, Interfaith Community Services Project Care, and the Angels Depot Senior Food Meal Boxes. Under health services, Vista Community Clinic's Wellness Clinic, and Terry Inc.'s Health and Behavior Health Services. Oh, sorry. And then under emergency assistance, Mama's Kitchen, Home Delivered Hot Meals, and North County Lifeline's Project Outreach. This concludes staff's presentation. Mr. Meyer and I are available to answer questions.
Okay, we have several speakers. Would you like to hear from the speakers first? Sure. We have, I think, 5. Okay, first is Nadine Kaina. Did you bring props today, Nadine? Talk right in the microphone. Grab the microphone there, yeah.
And I just realized that moved into that residence in the year 2000. I can't believe it's been 14 years. And I've been with Interfaith Community Services for 11 of those years. And like a lot of organizations, they had a budget problem. And last year I brought a magic hat. And I was going to bring it again this year because I really tried to do a lot of magic tricks. But you know what? It disappeared.
Because it's
I brought
magic.
another hat.
Are you going to sing and dance too?
No, but I'll tip my hat off to you for all the help that you have given to me. And the program, Project CARE, is a community action senior program, and it's a safety program. And I wanted to tell you that just 2 months ago, a life was saved here in Vista. One of the clients that we had, we have a telephone program. It's called How Are You? And its operation is in San Diego with emergency services. So when the person doesn't answer, I may have a neighbor or a friend to call, which this lucky person did. The neighbor went over to the house, found him in the kitchen on the floor, and so she called the paramedics or the fire station, and they came and picked him up. So when she was telling me this, I said, well, why didn't they take him to the hospital? She said he didn't want to go. He was in his pajamas, and he didn't want to go. And so I talked to him, and he told me that, well, yeah, I did kind of feel dizzy the last 3 nights. I said, you need to go to the hospital. I'll call the paramedics if you call your daughter who lives in Dana Point, and she can bring you the clothes that you're going to need at the hospital. So he agreed. And so he called me the next day to say that he felt much better, but that he has decided to move near his daughter to be taken care of a little bit more secure than so far of a distance. And so we've got another life saved. And so one of the other things that we do is we give this Vial of Life out to everybody in Vista that is a senior, 60 plus. If some people are handicapped or have an illness, they can have one of these by calling me. We're on the website under Interfaith Community Services, and this is the medical form that goes inside. And the paramedics have used this many times to see what medicine they're taking. As you know, seniors are living longer, and they are not taking medicine, some of them. And so we need to know what their history is. Where's the red light or the green light?
It's red lights going on.
Okay. So that's all I wanted to say. Oh, what I wanted to say was the July 1 last year, they pulled me, Interfaith had a budget problem. They pulled me out of San Marcos, out of the senior center. I do not have an office there anymore. And instead of 40 hours a week, I'm now working 16. So I am trying to do everything I did last year in 3 hours every day. And so we're a little down on our statistics, but I submit a report every quarter, just like we need to. And I tip my hat off to the advisory council over there for all their help. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadine. Donald Stump.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, esteemed colleagues. I'm here to thank the Council and the City of Vista for all you do to support North County Lifeline to achieve our mission. Many ways. You do that in many, many ways. You help us with leased property, with advocacy, with financial support like CDBG, and you're really supporting us help youth and families reach self-reliance. I want to thank you for your recommendation for CDBG funding. It really helps with our employment and housing services, and it really reaches out to the most needy in Vista. This year you're supporting our project outreach, which basically we place a couple of part-time staff in Vista Unified Schools, and they are basically serving as liaison to provide emergency assistance to homeless families in the schools and get them immediately connected up with our emergency assistance and employment services. Last year, we shifted our model from self-sufficiency services to a career advancement model. So what we're really looking at is how to, over the long term, we sustain the employment and the viability of families that are formerly homeless. Last year, we served 221 Vistans with bundled services, resulting in 100 job placements. And in most, an additional 100 folks increase their FICO scores, and another 100 folks increase their net worth. So what we're really looking at in this Financial Opportunity Center model is how do we get them not just a handout, but how do we get them long-term sustainable. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Holly, is it Salguero?
Good evening. I'm Holly Salguero with Palomar Family Counseling Services, and on behalf of Palomar Family Counseling, I'd like to thank the CDBG Community Advisory Board for the recommendation of funding for the Vista Family, Youth, and Child Response Crime and Delinquency Program. This program will provide mental health counseling to at-risk youth and children in Vista with the goal of treating antisocial behaviors and averting criminal activity by helping to develop a productive lifestyle in these youth, children, and their families. I also want to thank the City Council for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Marco Lemus?
Good evening. My name is Marco Lemus, and I'm the program coordinator for the Catholic Charities Food Resource Center in Vista. And first off, I want to thank everybody here at the council, the advisory committee, for giving us the opportunity to apply for this grant, and for providing this opportunity for many other great organizations. As part of Catholic Charities, we applied for this fund, and no funds were allocated for our program. And I'm just here to ask the council and the Community Development Grant Committee to reconsider the allocated funds for the years 2014 and 2015. We requested a $10,000 grant to continue providing emergency food and additional resources that guide low-income households to a path of self-sufficiency, and additional resources, that guide low-income households to a path of self-sufficiency at our center. We are the only food distribution site in Vista that is open 5 days a week, which prevents many Vista residents from going hungry. The number of beneficiaries in our program is expected to be 4,440, 1,000 of them being seniors, which make up approximately 23% of that population. And I know seniors and emergency services being one of the main priorities of this grant. I found that to be a significant number. Since Citizens of Vista, they truly rely a lot on us for their emergency services. I think it's appropriate to reconsider our program for the $10,000 grant that we had proposed initially. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose, is it Jaimes? Did I say that right?
Yes, Jaimes. It seems like James, but it's Jaimes. So hello, everybody. My name is Jose Jaimes, and I represent Tierra Caliente. I'm the director and founder. We're a 501c3 that focuses on the cultural awareness and the performing arts. We were actually not able to take advantage of the CDBG, but I want to thank Kathy. She was awesome in the process. But we move forward. So I come here with the twist. But before that, I want to thank you guys for the community outreach you guys have been doing in many of the events and the meetings that I have seen you guys. So when it comes to the Latino community, we take that into heart, and we thank you very much. So I come here for two purposes. One is an invitation. There's a handout that you guys I left for you guys. And we have a couple shows coming up. There's only 2 shows of many that we have throughout the year. So this is an invitation for you guys to be part of it. Within the community outreach, I think is very important for city officers and leaders to be there, at least present, so that you guys can interact with other leaders that serve as partners to us, and also within the visual performing arts and cultural awareness. So there's a couple flyers and some forms for you guys to review. So if there's any questions, there's my business card. So that's the first one. And the second one is seeing the presentation on the cultural arts that falls under our alley. So I think there's a lot of resources here in Vista that a lot of our Latino community are not taking advantage of. And one of them, of course, being the Moonlight. The 2 shows that you guys see here in your handout are actually being presented at the ABO. So we're trying to bring more to the Avo and eventually to the Moonlight. So I would like to see if anyone would be open or maybe appoint somebody to hold a meeting with Tierra Caliente, some of our board members, to discuss the ways that we can bring that Latino community, not only here in Vista, but in our county, as we have a lot of resources within the visual performing arts that we think that Latinos can attract a lot of Latinos. And I only speak Latinos, actually it's open to everyone, but that's the branch that I represent. So I want to thank you guys again, and my information is in the handouts, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Fernando Sanudo?
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. My name, again, is Fernando Sanudo. I'm the CEO with Vista Community Clinic. I wanted to thank you for your support of our CDBG application this evening. Because the City of Vista doesn't necessarily have an official Department of Public Health, Vista Community Clinic developed our Wellness Center back in 1998. And since then, we have been providing services for anyone that walks in the door, regardless of whether or not they have money to pay. Through our Wellness Center, we're open 55 hours a week. We're open evenings and weekends. And we try to keep as many evenings possible, especially for the working folks that can't get in during the day. With the dollars you provided us last year, we were able to provide services to 4,800 low-income individuals, and of those, 4,000 received flu and pneumonia vaccines. The funds for this year that we're requesting will be able to serve an additional 2,500 low-income individuals, and then 300 of those who we consider to be the highest risk would also be receiving pneumonia and flu immunizations at no cost. Other services that we provide include assessment of childhood diseases, childhood vaccinations, immunization follow-ups, wild child exams, tuberculosis screening, and then very importantly, referrals for our health insurance program. I think you all agree that these are very critical services for the city, especially if we want to keep us healthy. So all in there, and thank you again for your support.
What are your hours in the evening? Which, how late are you open in the evenings, just so people maybe would know that?
So we're open until 8:30, and if there's a high demand, we'll stay open later.
Monday through Friday?
Yes.
Okay, and are you open on weekends?
Yes, we're open on Saturdays during the day from 9 to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Sunday is the only day we're not open, and we're thinking about that too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Those are all of our speakers. Do I have anybody here? If no comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the recommendation brought before us, and I want to thank the committee for sifting through and analyzing all the numerous requests and prioritizing them, because it's a difficult job, and I just wish we had more money to fund the great need that we have out there that's represented by those who make application. Thank you.
Okay, to close the public hearing in your motion too, right?
Close the public hearing also.
Okay, do I have
I'll second that.
Okay. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously. So with that, it brings us to our oral communications. And we have oral communications. I have five oral communications here. So we'll start with Thomas Schenzler. Did I say it right?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Thomas Schenzler and I live in the Shadow Ridge area of Vista. I'm talking in opposition to the recently installed stop signs on Shadow Ridge Drive and Live Oaks. When the stop signs were installed, we talked to Mayor Ritter, and she promised us to bring this issue back on the agenda within 6 months. Those 6 months are now almost over. So why were the stop signs installed? The city has a traffic engineering standard to warrant the installation of new stop signs. It is a point system based on accident history, traffic volumes, pedestrian volumes, and so on. 20 points are required to warrant the installation of a new stop sign. This intersection only got 5. So clearly, this stop sign is not warranted by traffic engineering standards. This stop sign is also not wanted by the citizens of Vista. I have an online petition that is signed by 387 people. 335 of those are from the city of Vista, and 307 are from the 92081 zip code, which is the area right around that stop sign. How many people did request the stop sign? I don't know the exact number, but my estimates are maybe 20 to 30 people. So the opponents of the stop sign outnumber the proponents by 10 to probably at least 10 times. The stop sign is also causing an economic damage of about $500,000 a year due to increased fuel use and lost wages based on lost time. Councilmember Campbell, we are also emitting about 600 metric tons more CO2 per year because of the stop sign. So the stop sign is not wanted by the citizens of Vista, and is not warranted by city engineering standard. So why was it installed? It almost, I don't know why it was installed, but it appears to me that it was installed to make it easier for Councilmember Cowles to get out of his driveway. Mayor and City Council members, you are elected to serve the citizens of Vista and not your own personal interests. Mayor Ritter, I'm hoping that you keep your promise and bring this issue back on the agenda soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen Thomas?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Maureen Thomas, and I also am here to oppose the stop signs on Shadow Ridge and Live Oak. I have lived in the Shadow Ridge community over 22 years, and I know this has been a very contentious area of whether we're putting stop signs or turns or whatever. It's been going on for years and years and years. And people back and forth continue to fight which way it should go. I'm disabled and I am at home 24/7 a day. And I can assure you, since those stop signs have gone in, my direct effects that I see are increased traffic bunching to the point that people off of Magellan, I'm on the 6th tee of the golf course, cannot get out to turn on to loop on to Shadow Ridge Drive to head towards Melrose. So where you've created one effective flow, you've essentially blocked it up. You have 3/10 of a mile from Melrose to the stop sign, of which is an uphill grade, and an uphill grade past just the stop sign. I get tremendous traffic noise, overflow. You have cars backed up 6, 8 in each row at all hours of the night, motors running, start, stop, accelerations, motorcycles with their throttles constantly throttling. And people are not getting sleep, they're not getting rest. The noise pollution is horrible. I mean, I know the city did supposedly contact some people. The ones that I know that were contacted were the 3 people supposedly that are right on the sign, and that was it. I feel being behind the sign and getting all the noise pollution, the brake dust, the squealing brakes, the continuous boombox engines and things like that. I can't even go outside of my backyard and enjoy the beautiful Shadow Ridge golf course or anything like that. I've lived on Shadow Ridge Drive, and I've lived next to Live Oak as well. And I understand the growth of the city and things that we have to do. And when Shadow Ridge Drive became a commercial street, I understood that we had to take traffic off of Sycamore Drive, and that I understood this concept. But this stop sign makes absolutely no sense. And the petition that Thomas was talking to you about, I have given you presentations, photocopies of every name on that list. And I assure you, beyond reasonable doubt, some people are big doubters that this list is really people, actual people, and voters, I might add, in this city. And they are, and they very much want to be heard.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The next speaker is Biram Shamsian. Did I say that okay?
Yes, you did. Your Honor, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Councilman. First of all, I want to thank you personally, Mayor, when I called your office regarding opposing to this stop sign. May I add, Mayor returned my call less than 4 minutes. So I was extremely happy and appreciative. I am thanking you personally. But at the same time, just like to my previous presenter, I am extremely objecting to this stop sign. I've lived in the shadow of Melrose for 15 years. And personally, 2 weeks ago, I took a lawn chair and put it right on the intersection of Shadow Ridge and Live Oak and took a number of how many cars actually are crossing. For the 3 hours that I sat there, I counted more than 7,000 cars stopped versus 11 cars on the Live Oak. Now, you, Councilman and Mayor, tell me, is this the right justification to put a stop sign at that intersection? Thank you very much.
What time did you sit there? What
I
hours?
sat there from 11 in the morning on Saturday until 2:30. And that was my time. I used that road almost every day, going to work and coming back, taking my kids to swimming. That traffic, that stop sign, not only created safety. You mentioned about all safety, about flex traffic light, which I highly admire, you guys, but that traffic, that stop sign actually created safety issue because not only it's, as Thomas mentioned, it's costing us a lot of money, but also personally I witnessed an accident. So I've been there and I lived there and I took that road for 15 years and I never saw the accident. And you and I, Mayor, when we last time spoke, you promised me to look into the accident report. I hope you did that because I personally witnessed one accident and I saw on 2 other occasions the debris on the Shadow Ridge of the 2 other accidents. So since I think we put the stop sign, we caused the accident. We are causing it. So if we are all for the safety of our community and our citizenship, I highly encourage you to consider, put it back on agenda, and let's re-vote again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gary Taylor?
My name is Gary Taylor. I would like to respond to the stop sign. It's not the reason I'm here, but I live off of Shadow Ridge Drive, and I'm all in favor of the stop sign because Shadow Ridge Drive is a mini freeway, and in the last several months I felt that it has really slowed down the speeding when people leave Melrose and hightail it all the way to Sycamore. So I'm in favor of the stop sign. I'm here to bring up a question that I asked the council about 4 or 5 years ago. It has to do with water. And I believe the council lady, I think maybe it was Mayor Ritter at the time, because there's only one lady councilwoman. I asked what we were doing with reclaimed water. And somebody on the council told me we can't use reclaimed water because the birds get sick. I'm wondering why Poway, Rancho Bernardo, and I even hear Carlsbad is ready to use or install some type of program to use reclaimed or recycled water. We have quite a water problem. And I'm wondering, at the time, I was told we have a plan we're working on. That was 3 or 4 years ago. I wonder if there is a plan. I've talked to the people at the golf course. I'm not a golfer, but I notice all the pine trees that are being pulled out and that are dying because the golf course says the city won't let them use reclaimed water. What about the big reservoir on Lupin Hills Road? I'm told that it's too expensive to fill it up again. Is there a plan to use reclaimed water or recycled water, or am I at the wrong body to ask those questions? So I don't know if anybody can address that or if it is being addressed, but all these other communities are now using reclaimed water. What is Vista doing? And I do appreciate your service.
Maybe our city manager can address that.
Vista, the city, is not the water purveyor. That is the Vista Irrigation District, as you may know. In Shadow Ridge, we did have a reclamation plant that was active until about, maybe 10 years ago or more. It was shut down due to a lack of use of reclaimed water, actually, at that time, specifically by the golf course, because it had too high of a salt content, which was creating problems for the grass on the golf course. We did a study 2 years ago to look at what it would take to reactivate that plant, and it was far too costly. We did that in partnership with the County Water Authority as well as Vista Irrigation District to look at that, if that would be a potential to allow for new reclaimed water in the area. As it stands now, the city doesn't have any sort of plan for future reclaimed water due to the fact that we don't have any infrastructure outside of that reclamation plant directly to the golf course. And so
we don't have the pipes either.
That's what I mean. We don't have the infrastructure.
We have the infrastructure in the ground to do it.
To be able to carry the reclaimed water, even if we could get it here from another source.
Thank you.
But it's a good idea. The next speaker is Yuri Lopez.
Hello, Council. My name is Erube Lopez. I'm very excited about the bicycle master plan that we're doing. As I was doing that, I was thinking it'll be great if we match it with our pedestrian master plan. And I did some research, and I couldn't find a pedestrian master plan. And I thought if we have a bicycle master plan, maybe we should also have a pedestrian master plan. If we had a pedestrian master plan, we might be able to see some of the priorities that we have around pedestrian issues. One of my main concerns regarding the pedestrian issues is Los Angeles Street. It's one of the densest, most walked areas in the city of Vista, and it's lacking sidewalks. I think the largest culprit of blight in that area is the lack of sidewalks. I know the city is doing a lot, but again, as a resident, so it's our job to push so that you guys do more. Thank you.
Thank you. That is our last speaker. So with that, we will go on to our remarks. So I guess I'll start. Who wants to start? Anybody?
I'll
John.
start.
Oh, everybody wants to start today. Okay. Well, Iris said, okay. Deputy Mayor Aguilera, we'll go this way.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that we as a city council definitely should look into this stop sign on Shadow Ridge. We did, as I remember it, talk about revisiting this after the 6 months. If nothing else, we need to see if we are accomplishing what we were intending to accomplish with putting that stop sign.
So do you want an agenda item? Is that what you're asking?
I would like to put it on a future agenda, yes.
Okay, then you need 3 people? I would agree with that too, so that's 3 for that. Okay.
And the next thing I would like to see on a future agenda is, well, I would like to, I've been approached by Tri-City Christian to waive some fees for their development and actually redirect fees. So I know that there are some legal issues as far as doing that, but I would definitely like to direct staff to discuss this with Tri-City Christian and talk about the deferment of those fees if they're not willing to go that route, or if that's not what they're looking for, then I would like to see that come on a future agenda as well.
Is that enough direction? How do we do that? Somebody help.
You have 3 supporters total. You can direct staff, and we will.
I would support that.
Tri-City Christian.
Do I have another supporter down there?
I would support discussing it with Tri-City, but only into deferring fees, but nothing else.
Is that what you're talking about, deferring them?
Well, we can talk about deferring them to start with, yeah. I mean, that's just going to really be a discussion with staff, I believe, right?
That's correct. We can have a discussion with them on the fee deferral for a certain period of time.
Okay, so how about we go with that? We discussed a deferral of them. The staff can discuss that, and then if that doesn't work, then we'll come back again, okay? Is that agreeable?
So is there 3 in support?
Yeah, I believe
1,
so.
2, 3, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You got anything else, John?
No, I'd just like to, I guess, invite everybody out this Saturday to the Alta Vista Gardens. They're celebrating their Earth Day on Saturday. It's from 10 to 3 o'clock. I believe the mayor will be there. He's probably going to talk about it. But anyways, they're introducing their human sundial at 12 o'clock. So I'd like to invite the public out there. It's a great place. I had an opportunity to be out there this morning. I used to be a board member and am a current member, but it's been a while since I've actually taken a little tour of the place. And if you haven't been out there, it's definitely a hidden gem in our city park. It's at Bringle Terrace. It's 12.5 acres. The place is really starting to fill in now. The plants are growing. You know, plants don't grow overnight. So over the last 10 years or so, it really has changed out there. So please come out and support your local botanical garden. Thank you.
It's the top of the hill at Bringle Terrace, and also have a great children's garden there that have all sorts of things. There's a little thing where you use stones to make music, and they have a lot of good things for kids. So if you haven't been out there, come out on Saturday. It's a fun event. So Cody, do you have something?
No comments this evening.
Or Councilmember Campbell, I'm sorry. Okay, Councilmember Coles.
Just a question to Deputy Mayor Aguilar. What the details on the Alta Vista Guard? What time is that, and what's the format of the visit?
Okay, so it's in celebration of Earth Day, and the party starts at 10, I guess you might say, and it goes till 3 o'clock. At noon, they're going to have a presentation or introduction, I guess, of the human sundial, and there's going to be food served there. I'll actually be working the food. For whatever reason, I'm always cooking.
Yeah, flip burgers?
Yeah, this time we're doing burgers and brats and hot dogs and sodas and that type of thing. So there will be food available. There's a lot of things to do for kids, so if you have kids, bring the kids out. There's all kinds of events that they're going to have for kids. Whether it's
cost associated with it?
Free.
Really? The food even?
No. We'll be charging for the food. That's a fundraiser for the Alta Vista Gardens. But it is very inexpensive, actually. Cheaper than any of the local establishments.
And the local kids made the sundial. They broke up little pieces of clay and they made out this amazing sundial. So that's something to see. So, yes.
The only other addition to that is I think we reached a milestone tonight by adopting a budget with no structural deficit. We also had to me was a great concentrated and concerted effort by our council to agree on our direction, our goals for the future. I'm just proud to be a part of a council that has a common goal in mind to improve and better our city. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Rigby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a few items, so if you will, I beg your indulgence. I do want to say thank you to staff for the structural deficit and the budget that we have as well. I want to just say the city, the residents, our businesses, everybody has sacrificed over the last few years so that we can come out of this on the positive end. And it's been a long time coming, and I'm very proud of the city for this as well, so thank you for that. Regarding the stop sign, it was also actually really listed on my things to do tonight to ask my council colleagues to bring this back, because we did say we would in 6 months, and I thank you for holding our feet to the fire and for being very vocal on my Facebook page. I like that. I also wanted to address the gentleman regarding the reclaimed water, and he left, but if he's watching at home on Friday, in Ontario this past week, I was attending a League of Cities meeting, and one of the issues that we talked about was water shortage and the water problems that we're having. And knowing some of the things that they're doing over here in Carlsbad with reclaimed water, Cheryl Cox, the mayor of Chula Vista, and I both spoke to that body and talked to them about funding. Our particular topic of discussion was funding, and the subtopic was water issues, and talking about needing state monies or federal monies somehow to come into the area to provide funding for the infrastructure that we need to do the reclaimed water projects. So it might take a long time, but it is something that people are talking about. So I just wanted to let you know that. One of the other things I'm going to ask my council colleagues to put on a future agenda just to discuss it is regarding the newspaper hawkers that we have in town. I've had some issues with them personally. Neighbors have. I've gotten phone calls and letters, and I get stopped at the market and at Starbucks. People are wanting us to talk about the hawkers and how aggressive they are and how they're really kind of intrusive in some of these intersections. And so I would just ask my council colleagues if that's a discussion that we can have on a future agenda.
Sure. I haven't had a problem with them ever. They've been but I'm happy to discuss it.
Thank you. A second.
I've never had a problem with them, but I'm willing to discuss it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just say ditto.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Also, Thursday, it was discussed, and I think our city attorney was also in the room for this discussion. The California State Assembly passed the House Resolution number 29. Now, a resolution in its definition is non-binding, but the Assembly is saying, we can't tell you you can't do this, but we're just telling you we don't like this. And what this is to bar cities from outsourcing city services, to contracting out city services. And I was really surprised and disappointed. I'm just going to put this out there for the record. I was disappointed that the State Assembly would do this in the morning on a Thursday when quite a few of the Assembly members had left for the weekend. The vote was 42 yes to 22 no's, with quite a few who weren't there to vote. So it did pass, and it's going to become a bill. There's already a number attached to it, and it's being introduced and sponsored by another Assembly member. And I would think that barring cities from being able to contract out city services, that sometimes we keep things in-house and sometimes we contract them out. We try to get the best service we can for the money that we have in our city to represent our residents and spend their money and be good stewards of spending their money. And I think that could have some serious detrimental effects on all cities in the state if it were to become a law that we would actually be bound to. And I know that our mayor will send letters to the state legislature in support or opposition of different bills that fit into our legislative platform. But what I'm asking my council to do tonight is something stronger than a letter from the mayor. Not that that's not good, Mayor. But I'm asking for my colleagues to, I would like to see a council resolution condemning this House Resolution 29 and sending a strong statement to the state that local control of the city is for the local officials to handle, not the state telling us what we can and cannot do as far as being good stewards of our city services and our city monies. If we find that we can get better service with in-house, that's what we'll do. But if we need to contract out for better services, quality services at affordable prices, we need to be able to have that option too, and not for some reason have the state of California tell us that we can't. And I think we have a couple of agenda items tonight that we contracted out some services. So I'm just not sure how this would affect everybody, but I do know that it can be detrimental, and it could have some far-reaching, very negative effects in the future. So I would just ask my colleagues if we could, I think it has to be an agenda item, and maybe staff could prepare the language for a resolution condemning this that could be sent to our legislators. And I would like to just make a comment that our Assemblyman, Rocky Chavez, voted against it.
If I could ask a question, I think I know the answer. But our legislative platform, as you mentioned, we can oppose this because it deals with local control.
Right.
But would you like to wait and see if it becomes a bill before we agendize this, as opposed to doing a resolution on something that may not become a bill? And if it becomes a bill, if there's support, we could bring it back. But if it doesn't become a bill, then we'll just wait and watch.
Well, I would like to take a proactive step to tell the state legislature that, hey, we're watching you, and you shouldn't even be thinking of doing something like this. So
I'm okay with it.
I'm keeping
All
that.
for it.
Yeah.
Local control.
I think I'm in agreement, I think philosophically, with retaining our local control to decide what we want to do. I'd like to know more about, I mean, this is the first I knew about that.
There you go.
There it is.
Before I take a position condemning something. I mean, I don't want the state to continue to interfere with our direction and our ability to govern ourselves.
Right.
I do like the idea of, not being too premature and waiting till it's a bill. But again, I'm willing to look into and analyze this and take a position to protect our city.
Well, I think if it comes back as an agenda item, the text would be there with the discussion, that it would be very informative.
And I actually went online and read about it, so because I knew about it too. So
Okay.
I think it's a good idea. So we'll bring it back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also, I wanted to talk about the corner of Olive and Melrose, where that graffitied out wall has been for many, 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 many years. We've all complained. I complained as a resident. I've complained as a council person. We've had so many people complain. I had a couple of very heartfelt conversations with SDG&E in the last few weeks, and I'm proud to say that finding no reason for them to not allow access to that property, they gave the key to the guy and they allowed access, and that graffitied out wall has been painted over. And I understand that city staff helped come up with the color, and that color was chosen for particular reasons. But I'm very happy to see, after maybe 10 years, the graffiti on that wall is gone. And we have a new person who took over, Amber Vertroot. Did I say that correctly? No. Amber.
It's close.
Amber. He took over her job. Warren Ruiz took over her job. And he's been very, very responsive to any ideas that I have and any questions that I have. And when I told him the history of that, he wasn't sure he'd be able to do anything. And then all of a sudden, he talked to them, and they thought, well, we don't know why we're not allowing this, and they did. So I took it a little step further in that lot at Melrose and Olive, and I said, well, if you're going to have something on this lot, I'd like to know what it is you have planned for it and when that's going to be. So he called me back after some investigation and discovered that right now SDG&E really doesn't have anything on the table for that lot right now that they can identify. And I told him that I would like to turn it back into a public park for the benefit of that community. And I understand, and I have a letter here from previous city manager and previous council about why it was no longer a park, and the problem with the water meters getting confused, and instead of the city of Vista paying for the water used to maintain that carpet of grass in the park, SDG&E was paying for it, and I guess they presented a bill and the city said, never mind, we don't want to do that. But we're looking at we don't need, 10 years down the road now, we don't need a carpet of grass in a public park. A little bit of grass is great, some xeriscaping or whatever, a couple of benches, awnings that will have their solar panels, etc. So I talked with Warren at great length about this, and SDG&E seems to be open to the idea of taking down the fence and making it a community park again, with the understanding that they would not be putting any money into it. And it would be public-private partnership is what I would be looking at, to talk to some companies, some individuals, some organizations that would be willing to put some funding into it, to put some grass in, to put some benches in, put some awnings in, and leave it open for the community to enjoy. So I would like to, I don't know if I'm asking staff to get involved in conversations with SDG&E, or if you guys just want me to keep talking to Warren, I can do that too. But I would like to continue pursuing that option, to bring that back to a community use for the people and take that fence down. So I just want to let you know that I've been talking with them, and I don't know if you want to talk to me after or later, or if you need direction or anything. But just to let you know, I've been working with SDG and on that, and I'm hoping that we'll get that park. And
just add another note on that park, because the kids used to do murals on that wall all the time when it was a park, and
right.
And then they would, every so often they would paint them over and do new murals there. So and we never had any problems with graffiti at that time. So it just became a problem when the SDG&E took it back over. I was around when that whole thing was going on, so I wasn't happy with it either. So I'd like to see it be a park.
We had talked about redoing a mural, having maybe the person who did the mural downtown on the side of Mother Earth or across from Allen's Alley, perhaps do the mural, perhaps do another community mural. There are different options that we have for that. The wall that had the graffiti belongs to the storage company there, so we'd have to get into discussions with him. And considering how quickly he responded to finally getting access.
Hey, Amanda, we are supposed to talk about it because it's not agendized, so we have to not have this discussion. So
sorry,
but we can do it later.
Okay, well, I just wanted to let you know.
I'd like to see a city park too.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to, it is, so I'd like to, if I need to bring it back to the city council to discuss it, I would like to do that. Otherwise,
how we do it?
Yeah, no, you and I can have a conversation on this, and we can explore it through SDG&E and see where we can go with it.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. The next item on my agenda is, you probably have all read and heard about the BMX racetrack bicycle track that isn't going to happen in Escondido. As soon as I read that, I called my friends in Escondido to make sure it was true, because I don't want to poach anything from another city. They said it's not happening. So I called the BMX people and I met with them. And I talked to them about perhaps doing a BMX track here in Vista. And I asked them to visit us, tour Vista, get to know us before they went to any other city in North County, and they did. And I want to say a special shout out and a thank you to city staff, because they were very helpful in some of the information regarding location that we might have. I think the location we looked at this last week might not work, but we're not finished trying to identify someplace for that. You have Claremont Mesa, and then all the way up to Paris. Those are the two closest BMX facilities. And we have a lot of kids in North County who travel to those places. So I think it would be really great to have one here in North County and in Vista if we can. And I wanted to say to staff, thank you so much for making my passions your own passions and being so responsive to my questions and following me when I go and do these things. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your support. And never telling me it can't be done, even though you might think that. You've never articulated it, so I appreciate that. And I think that's it.
It is?
Thank you all for sticking out with me.
Nothing to say tonight.
Filled up my note page.
Okay, I got a few little things here that I have to say. So I just have announcements. we're updating our bicycle master plan, and we're holding another community workshop next Wednesday, April 16th, from 6 to 8 at VAPA. And details are available at the vistabikeplan.com. And so anybody is interested in that could go and give their input. Volunteers are needed for April 26th, the Buena Vista Trails Cleanup Event, which runs from 8 until noon. The first 100 to check in at Buena Vista Park will receive a free T-shirt. So you can sign up information online at cityofvista.com. That's for the Buena Vista Trails Cleanup Event. Also on April 26th, same day as Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. Drop off your old and unused prescription drugs at the Walgreen parking lot at 310 Sycamore Avenue from 10 to 2. And if you miss that event, don't forget you can always drop off the items at the main Vista Sheriff's Station during business hours. And I tried to do that one weekend, and the one part was closed. So if you go in the jail part, right in the place where the jail is, there's a thing in there. I always put my prescriptions in a Ziploc baggie and just dump them in there, because some people put them in their toilet, but it's bad because it goes in the water over to Encina, and then they have to try and clean the drugs out of there, because we can't dump them into the ocean, because then it's very polluted. So if you could take all your prescriptions and dump them into a Ziploc baggie and take them either to the sheriff's station anytime during business hours, or to behind the Walgreen parking lot there on Sycamore. That was on April 26th, 10 to 2. City and Vista are holding a Community at Play mural competition for the design of 3 new murals on the new Linda Rhodes Recreation Center, which is at the VAPA school there, the new recreation center there. All Vista Unified School District high school students are eligible to enter that. Entries are due April 30th, and details are on our website again. And finally, mark your calendars for the 3rd annual Rhythm and Bruise Music and Craft Beer Festival, set for Saturday, May the 3rd. This year's festival will host 50 breweries, including, of course, all of our local Vista breweries, 9 bands, and 3 stages, making the Rhythm and Bruise a festival not to be missed for those 21 and older. And so that one is sdrhythmandbrews.com if you're interested in that. And with that, those are my announcements. Oh, our city manager, sorry, I almost stopped.
Just have 2 items. I'll try to be quick. Just wanted to let everybody know in the audience that the upcoming April 22nd city council meeting will be canceled. And our next meeting will be on May 13th. And the second item is, you may have noticed already that there's a 120-foot tall tower. That's a communications tower that's going up near the courthouse. And this is part of the new CHP building that's under construction, that's open in the summer. And so
the CHP building.
Highway Patrol building.
Oh, Highway Patrol.
Yeah, so they're locating off of La Tortuga. And it'll be a 2-story building. It'll be their headquarters for the area, but there is a 120-foot tower that is sticking up in Vista now that wasn't there before. So if you get questions, that's what it is. And
okay,
just want to give you a heads up.
And that's right. Is it by the courthouse?
It's by the courthouse, in the back side of the courthouse.
It's right up next door to the Vista Community Clinic offices.
Oh, okay. On La Tortuga.
Right.
Okay.
On La Tortuga.
Okay. City Attorney, do you have anything? We're keeping you busy, though.
Nothing this evening.
How about our City Clerk, Marcy Killian, and Amanda at the other end? Okay. Okay, with that then, it is adjourned at 7:28. Yay. That was a long meeting for have a short agenda.